say it. I say rolling to you, and when he says action, I say action to you.
Very good.
Here we go. Rolling, action.
Hello, I'm Matthew Gillis. I've been writing poetry since about age 16. Putting my thoughts and emotions to pad and pen has helped me to process and overcome most of the obstacles in my life. Shakespeare has long been a heavy influence in my life, so I'd like to open with my favorite sonnet. Number 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often in his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance of nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of thou fairest thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. William Shakespeare. I wrote this short collection of poetry. It's called How I Beat Cancer. And it's just a collection of my thoughts, both before, during, and after my bout with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I'm going to read a few of these for you tonight. The first one is called Those Three Words. I should have known before it happened, but denial is more powerful than certainty. And when the pressure became too much in class, I called from a payphone in the foyer. The receptionist put me on hold. My appointment was for Friday to get the test results, but it was Tuesday, and I knew they were in. The doctor came on the line around 11 a.m. Give me some good news, Doc. I usually like to do these things in person. I know, but I can't wait. Well, there's no easy way to say this. I blacked out for a moment, then hung up the phone and walked down the hall in the direction of class. But I walked past the classroom and saw the overheads beaming down on students now spilling out of open doors. But there was no sound. I could see mouths moving and papers shuffling, but it was as if someone had pressed mute on the television. And those three words echoed in my head as I fell to the floor. I have cancer. Some powerful stuff, I tell you. This next one is called Justa Sestina. I fell into a burning ring of fire, with no way out, it seemed, save death, predestined early to make peace and arrangements made with those I love. Not without feeling of remorse did then come the bittersweet reward. But with that bittersweet and wrong reward, a passion burned despite the smoldered fire. The faded memory of a fresh remorse meets swiftly through the night with death. Both knowing mortal hurt of lost love, we resolved to disarm and make peace. You held your arms out in sign of peace, and I, quickly to accept a most glorious reward, fell both in and out and back again in love, with never feeling need to fuel the fire, never having to explain my perfect death, and never again to feel cold remorse. A cold drink on a warm day I will always love, leaving money as my means to make remorse. Still clearly hot, it's hard to stop atop the fire, when nearly warned about the threats of peace. When war is so devastating with no obvious reward, except the promise of so many young deaths. Naivete and purity suffer an untimely death, while what's left in its place cannot be love. How can someone see an insignificant reward? The first and last reward is our swift death. Stoke the dying fire to ignite our burning love. Just know, remorse will cost us both our peace. This one's called PC. Sometimes I am sickened by a politically correct society of cell phone and iPod people. Don't people talk to each other anymore? No, I don't want your email. I don't want your website. I don't want your Facebook, and I don't want your blog. I want an honest look in the eyes. I want a firm handshake and a smile of recognition. I don't want to share an LOL. I'd rather share a laugh. So don't IM me while I'm typing unless you're the girl I love. Don't email me if you won't say hi when we pass each other on the street. Drop that American Spirit Ultralight into your non-fat half-calf double latte and hang up your little walkie-talkie next time you come close to causing an accident. If this offends you, good. I finally identified my target audience. What you listening to? Where you at? Can you hear me now? My key on her collar. There's a poodle with the key to my cage on her collar, yelping at me across the top row when the lights go out. I sit along mangled chew toys and an oversized water dish. I screwed that up. I'm going to start that one again. My key on her collar. There's a poodle with the key to my cage on her collar, yelping at me across the top row when the lights go out. I sit along mangled chew toys and an overturned water dish in an oversized cage that hasn't been cleaned in weeks. I sit with large paws that reach across, but I have no thumbs with which to grasp the key that holds my freedom. Every day there are less of us. We are the unwanted, the unclaimed, the lost, and those who have no home. Every night when the lights go out, I wonder if I'm next. I dream of running across an open field back to my owner, my family, my life. Every night the dream is the same, and every day I wake up to the yelping of that damn poodle with the key to my cage on her collar. The little girl. The day she came into my life changed everything. She is perfect in her beautiful innocence. The doctor said I would never have children, so she is my little miracle. When I held her in my arms the first time, I finally figured out what life was about. You feel so big, yet so small at the same time because you helped create this other person, and now she is what matters most. I want to get it all together and be the best father I can be. I want her to have the choice to do whatever she wants in life. I think she might be a 7-foot-tall supermodel. Her mother thinks she might be a doctor. Why not both? The short story. When I was 16, my best friend killed himself. Alcohol took his place and lasted 10 years at least. I met a girl. She was everything I imagined perfection to be, but she liked to cut herself. Some years later, I met another girl who was diagnosed with cancer. I beat it, but they said I would never have children. So she and I started a life together. She already had a child, but I had the habits. Foggy nights and broken furniture, with sunlight mocking my naked body sprawled out on the couch again. It came time to choose another life or death. So I quit drinking, and she left me anyway. Then we got back together. My fish can swim. And our baby girl is now 5 years old. Thoughts on poetry. Popular music is poetry. Thoughts on poetry. Popular music is poetry, and like popular poetry, it is ever-changing, but has a few rules. It must conform to the mainstream in a new way above all else. This means you've got to do something to stick out, but not too much or you won't be well received. It has to break a few rules and color outside the lines, but still make sense. It needs to evoke emotion beyond the one-night stand, yet stand alone when necessary. It's a large French vanilla regular with light ice. But then sometimes you drive off with a hazelnut or something else you didn't want, but you drink it anyway. And sometimes it's not that bad. Goodbye. My intrigues want her gentle hand, with hopes of love someday content. In silence smiling as she stands, my heart now bare of false pretense. Thoughts flow as well as ink, my mind is spent once more. I choose another's life today, and say to her what's gone unsaid. A blushing smile comes across my face. Intentions pure this time at least, the beast within has been suppressed. Denial rejects the thought of we. She smiles, embracing, as she left. So moving on, now other days, my humble ways of pushing on, counting loves how come and gone, another girl becomes a song to me. And I'd just like to wrap up with my favorite poem. In that moment. Could circumstance have been more perfect? I'm screwing it up, hold on.
We're going to go to black and then we're going to come back to that shot.
Okay. Am I sitting to standing, or am I just standing?
4, 3, no. We're going to do standing. And zoom out a little bit. And that's good. 5 count, then we'll come back. 5, 4, 3, 2.
I'd like to close with my favorite poem. In that moment. Could circumstance have been more perfect? A brilliant ball of fire descending from a crimson heaven, and a likeness of its splendor mirrored on what was once an endless bed of deep blue possibilities. The sweet melody of songbirds did harmonize the gentle breeze, while all the while the reeds would whistle and entice the clouds to dance. And each cloud itself would slowly speak in monotone, though low and deep, one silent, solemn word of wisdom as they danced across a crystal sky. And at that moment hope flew by, followed next by honesty, unity at its side. Then the most powerful of all came near, hovering beneath her wing, transparent, still behind her mask. True beauty threw me to my feet to ask, could I be the one to comprehend the depths to which severity could stretch beyond entirety? So I stood wide-eyed, as was she, hand in love's embrace. Divine, I touched the beauty of her face. Then it happened. I pulled her close to taste her smile, and with that, flesh on flesh, my soul escaped inside her chest, our hearts entwined, combined and blessed. The empty space inside my mind was filled at last, one last time. That passing breeze, now gone for good, had left one final word. Good. And then I'm going to sit and just wrap up, I guess. Or maybe I'll showcase some of this stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how we're looking on time. Was that
We'll come back. We're at 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Oh my God. I got to do some more.
Tell me when you come back.
Mm.
Should I count? Are you going to stay standing?
No, I'm going to sit back down.
He can hear you, he can't hear me, so if you talk to him.
Okay, I think I'm going to sit back down and maybe read a couple more poems because I think I want to go a little bit longer than we have so far.
So then you tell me what to do. Just keep going. You talk to me, I'll talk to him, you talk to you. So just go. Ask him, should you just start?
Should I just start?
Yes, just start whenever you're ready.
Okay.
You're on this one.
I'm on this one.
Starting.
Okay. Altoids. My little metal case of supplies became my best friend and crutch. I flipped it open wide-eyed each time with hopes that my salvation lay in the next handful. Their hues vivid cutting through the polished reflection of my candy, all different shapes and effects from Marinol and Vicodin to prednisone and Synthroid. I lost 100 pounds and shaved my head bald instead of watching it fall out. I learned to inject myself with Neupogen to get my white blood cell count back up. It was fighting with everything you've got to keep death at bay for 2 weeks. And then just when you start to hold down food again, you get injected with the poisons that start the cycle over. The first few days are the worst. Sometimes you wonder if death would really be that bad. And everyone is there to support you, but you can see the pity in their eyes. Go Google. There's just so much BS in the world, it becomes impossible to tell what is true anymore. So we were in this war, we began to find imagine. I'm not going to do that one. I don't like that one. Snowblind. Things are coming clearer in my fog, and peace is in the world, if for the moment. The snow, the beautiful snow, how it clings to the trees around the lake, and this tiny wind tries it might to shake the snow free, lays ultimately unsatisfied at what might have been. If only it would snow a little longer, but seasons being just that, it all melts away to give new life to old and tired souls. Sleep well, little angel, for you will always be loved. The sun will rise and set regardless of the season. Thank you for being there for me. But now I must face the snow, the beautiful snow, alone. Growing up. Sometimes I go back to the woods where my youth was kept and walk among the rows of prefabs and modulars that now litter a once rural neighborhood. Sliding glass doors and barbecue grills take the place of tree forts and trails. We played Desert Storm before it was a video game. The guns we carried were made of plastics, and the ones that did work shot little flying discs. I got you. No, I got you first. Uh-huh. Teams of 10 or more would meet each day to lose the hours and worries of the world. Later, the guns were made of steel, and the little BBs could actually break things. I shot a bird one day. That day, death became real. Accidents happened regularly. We were careless and armed, confused and curious, innocent but accountable, still not without fear. I can't help but think of those days, of those kids, of that bird, when I see a middle-aged man flip a burger on the back porch of his new modular. Thoughts on cancer. The why me phase is overrated. Humor can mean the difference between life and death. Yeah, I used to drink. sometimes too much. But before you judge me, let me ask you, what would you do if you had to look death in the face from time to time? So close, you almost became a friend in which to confide, but didn't. Not yet, anyway. Sometimes I say why, and sometimes it's why not. Sometimes I wonder who and think of all I've got. Surprise gave rise to illness while I suppress a cough. I clear my throat wide-eyed, for my demise lays on my tongue. Each day I bleed grief upon my chest for what I've done. The pain subsides a little more each time I become numb. Just rocks. I didn't come this far in my college career to fail now, but Spanish is like learning a foreign language, and geology is the study of rocks. Just rocks. I knew going into this class that it would be boring, and I probably would struggle with it because my mind doesn't really work that way. I can't listen to this Ben Stein lecture with the speed and enthusiasm of a rotting corpse. Come away from the window, Grandpa. Tell me what I need to study in order to pass. The lab is even worse. The TA is a few years younger than me. And though she has a great grasp of the material, she has the communicative ability of a 5-year-old. And she gets upset with the students for not comprehending whatever painful point she is trying desperately to get across. I've survived graduate level English courses, but I can't pass freshman year intro to geology. Maybe it's because they're just rocks. A day in the life of a non-athlete. She dragged me to the gym yesterday for the first time in 5 years or more, and today my noodle... A day in the life of a non-athlete. She dragged me to the gym yesterday for the first time in 5 years or more. Today, my noodle legs and jello arms are proof I gave it my all. Judgment-free zone? I think not. Two juice heads grunting in the corner and slapping each other in the chest. There was a woman that could have decapitated anyone in the room with their thighs, and a guy with one arm in a sling doing curls. Nearly everyone had an iPod despite the loud dance music. I ran into a guy I hadn't seen since Little League. It's funny how people age but still look the same. Now he's an herbalist and in much better shape. When we were done, she went tanning. And in the locker room, I changed by the mirror. Some guy stood uncomfortably close to me. And as I turned to leave, I burst into laughter because I was holding her water bottle, the pretty pink water bottle with the giant flower on the side. He smiled at me and I ran out the door. Right on. Her eyes, to my surprise, despise the size of thinner thighs and rather gather meager matter inside what's tried and true. Her lips are ships with which to sail 1,000 miles a trodden trail, a pale pink hue of dew inside a holy thimble's tattered nail. Her mind and mine is shattered time and space disgraced by thoughts of innocence and relevance. Displaced by water's sickly daughter, why not? It's shouted, begged, and pouted along a long line's time for rhyme, sublime with her hand holding mine. Her future is now ours to share and do with it what we might dare. To speak of love and love's despair contradict my etiquette. That we shall seek what we might get and love living life a little longer. Right on, right on, right on. Years from now. I once read something about astrological signs. Being the constant skeptic, it was difficult to believe, but it did make some sense. The Pisces is said to be an artist. He will fall in and out of love with you. He is consistent only in his unreliability and often mentally unstable, which helps him to become either a great success or a miserable failure. There's a fine line between genius and insanity, is said, and I believe that line is money. He's insane, they say of the new guy with the vision, and he's a genius, they say of the rich guy with the same vision. Years from now, when the ride is over, they might say they knew me, but the ones that really did won't say a word. They could share stories that I rambled on incoherently. I wish they'd say he was a genius, clearly ahead of his time. They might say he kissed my girlfriend and I knocked him out. I remember that guy. What was his name again? But today, they say I'm crazy, and I fear they're right. Writer's block. Something doesn't always come when it should. Something doesn't realize we have deadlines, work schedules, lives outside of school, and lives outside of writing. Is it better to take out the trash when it's half empty? I'll try to sound intelligent and be insightful. I'll try to say something with a little worth to society, but the meaning will be devoid of depth. In doing so, the piece defeats its own purpose for being. It sounds like trying. It sounds like reaching. It sounds like what it is. A guy with an assignment due tomorrow without any inspiration to produce anything worth reading. So this page is filled with pointless observations and useless information. This page is covered in words that address no pertinent issues of the day. This page is an ode to uninspired writers. Just turn off the computer and give up. Well, if you're that discouraged, you should give up. But if you find that words are coming, discouraging as they may be, words are coming. Pen them down because the words are true. And sometimes that's all we have. The ugly truth of our honesty in the words we share with those we choose to know us. You may forget these words and the guy who wrote them, but you'll never forget the feeling of being at a loss for words, because we have all felt that way at one time or another. Cancer-free. Every time I go back down to Boston, I am worried for what they might find. Will I have to start treatment again? Will I have to fight for my life? And every time they tell me the same thing. No visible signs. All CT scans and MRIs come back negative. It's a bittersweet reward because I worry every day what might happen. Still every time the same result. I wish this on no one. There are miracles in this word. I wish this on no one. There are miracles in this world, and modern medicine is one of them. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in and sharing some of my poetry. I've got books and CDs for thoughts, comments, questions. You can reach me at my email address. There we go. poetrywithmatt@gmail.com. Until next time, take care.
Darren cut